So I'm going to share with you guys a couple videos um, because this needs to be talked about, and not a lot of people have talked about it as of yet because this is a basically a news story that has come out. But I first want to show a quick video on the housing. Why did you? I hate when that happens. Uh, that wasn't supposed to play. Okay. All right, it's paused. Jeez Louise. Okay. Let's share this. This is what I want to share. I have to keep this muted just in case. I want to mute this. Okay. And then, okay. All right. So let's share this. And I'll be talking as you guys are watching this. But I really want you guys to see this really quickly. This video is titled Affording Rent on Minimum Wage Now Impossible. So as you can see, it starts off close to each other. So the blue line is minimum wage. The yellow line is percentage of income. And then the rent is the red line. And so it starts off at 1967 and it goes from there. And as we look at this, when anybody says, oh, you just need to work harder, when I was young, I was able to. When they say that, stop them and show them this. Because this is what's going on now. And anybody that says, well, you guys just need to work harder or you just need to get another job. No, because this is what happens. And so this is the inequality that takes place. And people will sit there and swear up and down that you're just not working hard enough, when in reality, the system is rigged against you. The system is rigged against us. Hell, I'm going through this right now. So that's what's important to realize. So let me share this video. Not video, this article. Oops, sorry. So this is out of Vice News. It says U.S. building more apartments than it has in decades, but not for the poor. It says apartment construction has reached a 50-year high, but the amount of units affordable to the lowest income groups has decreased nationwide. The U.S. is building more apartments than it has in half a century, but the poorest people still can't afford them, of course. The amount of units affordable to the lowest income groups has decreased across the country, even as apartment construction has reached a 50-year high, and even as overall rent is slowing, according to a report from Harvard's Joint Center for Housing Studies. There are many reasons for this, the report's authors explain, but the main one is that new units being produced are on the higher end and not affordable to people with the lowest incomes. Coupled with rent increases and deteriorating buildings, it means that benefits of the housing boom have been uneven. According to the report, while multifamily rental construction is at a decades long peak, the high asking rents of new units make them unaffordable for many households. According to Sophia Wedine, a research analyst at the Joint Center for Housing Studies, some of the problems laid out in the report can be remedied with subsidies like housing vouchers. Housing assistance is relatively effective and wonderful for the households who get it, and obviously, there's not nearly enough funding. So, the problem is, while I applaud wanting to make housing more affordable, when you say you want to make it more affordable, you still keep a paywall between a human being and housing. Let's just be real. And somebody will say, well, they should have to work in order to have housing. That's backwards. It's backwards. Because housing is a human right. If it's a right, then should it have a paywall? If you need it to live, should it have a paywall? If we all can pool our resources together so that everybody has it just by default, should it be paywall? Let's continue. Wadeen said the loss of low income units was a geographically widespread problem. It is a little bit startling that the supply of low rent units is falling everywhere. Even in places like Ohio and Michigan, Missouri, Indiana, low cost states have previously had the largest shares of low rent units. These states are losing low rent units too. In theory, the increased supply of apartment units should slow rent growth. And the report shows that broadly this is happening. But the housing market, as reflected in the report, is more complicated than that. There are many housing markets depending on your income, geography, or due to both the wealth gap and a widespread illegal discrimination, race. And while these markets interact with each other, they can require different remedies to preserve affordability. But the data suggests that building high-end housing is not easing pressures on the lowest end of the housing market, as some advocates focus predominantly on supply-side housing solutions have hoped. It says the report says that adjusting for inflation, the number of units with rents below $600 fell from 11.9 million to 8 million between 2011 and 2021. There was also a loss of 1.5 million units with rents between $600 and $799, as well as a loss of 980,000 units renting between $800 and $1,000 in the same period. Says, but new housing is mostly on the higher end. Relying on census data, the researchers found that asking rent for new multifamily rental housing units in 2022 was $1,800, affordable only to people earning at least $72,000. This is based on the standard used by the federal government that housing costs should be 30% or less of someone's income to be deemed affordable. Most of us, I say a great majority of us, are paying more than 30% of our income for housing. As this is all happening as the United States is experiencing a construction boom, According to the report, 547,000 new units of multifamily rental housing began construction last year, the most since the 1980s. In March of 2023, 960,000 were under construction, the highest in 50 years. So we have a massive stock of housing, but nobody can really afford it. You know what this is like? This is like having a crowd of starving, hungry, poor people sitting outside of a fine dining restaurant where you have a huge amount of tables full of good food, but there's only a couple of rich people in the restaurant eating, and you're behind the glass watching them eat, and there's nothing you can do about it. That's what it's like. And then people will sit there and go, well, you just need to work harder. The thing is that we're working hard enough as it is. The thing is that the housing is kept away from us. And so what do you want us to do? I know what I would want to do. I would want to smash that glass and come through into that restaurant and take that food. It's going to get to that point. That's what it's like. And this is just for rental units. We're not talking about houses. It says the share of cost-burdened households, meaning more than 30% of their income spent on housing, increased across the country by 1.2 million between 2019 and 2021 to a record of 21.6 million. And 11.6 million households are severely cost-burdened, meaning that more than 50% of the income is spent on housing. There's still a housing shortage. I disagree with that. A housing shortage of roughly 6.5 million homes, the result of a slowdown in housing production after the 2008 mortgage price crisis and the deterioration of homes in the last decade. Meanwhile, a lot of people don't talk about this, but there's 16 million vacant homes in the country. 16 million. And let's just say hypothetically, half those vacant homes need to be renovated for, occupancy, right? Let's just say even still 8 million homes that are, qualify for occupancy. And yet we have under 600,000 people that are homeless. Sounds more like a hoarding issue than a housing issue. Says overproduction on the high end can lead to disproportionately high vacancies at the top of the market, as institutional landlords can prefer prolonged vacancy to lowering rents when no one wants to pay their asking price. New York City, for instance, has long had a glut of empty luxury apartments. They keep them empty on purpose so that they can get more money for those units. And this talks about landlords. It says, compare this to the profit of landlords calculated as net operating income, NOI, or what property owners have left over after paying taxes, maintenance, and other costs. Net operating income grew 8.1% in the first quarter of 2023, and this was actually a stark decrease in growth from the 24.8% NOI growth in the second quarter of 2021, according to the report analysis of NCRIEF Property Index. So landlords are making hand over fist. Why are landlords bad? Why? And some people will say, well, the mom and pop landlords, here's the thing. Mom and pop landlords, and somebody made a great point, Here's my problem. The thing is that we shouldn't have a system where somebody has to depend on withholding housing from other people in order to make money so that they can survive. If those mom and pop landlords had their housing, their food, and their education and everything guaranteed, they would not need to rent out housing in the first place. Number one. Number two, for you to own another home and then having to charge somebody for rent, you are forcing that family to pay your mortgage for you. But who gets to keep the property as well as the wealth and the equity in that home? It's not the renters. It is the homeowner. Meaning that they are paying for your wealth. You're scalping people. You're no better than a ticket scalper. This is why landlords is a unnecessary, antiquated, and predatory practice that our country needs to get rid of. Mao was right. And you got people talking about, oh my God, landlords provide housing. They don't provide housing. They don't. That's like saying that insurance companies provide healthcare. No, they don't. Doctors, nurses, techs, they provide healthcare. Insurance companies don't provide healthcare. It's like saying, oh, landlords provide healthcare. All right, then did the landlord build the home with their own two hands? No. The construction company was the one that did it. The people who actually laid the foundation, that built the walls, that put in the drywall, that put in the plumbing, that put in the electrical, they are the ones that actually provided the housing. The workers. Get the fuck out of here. Goodness gracious. And so it's growing. Right? Housing is becoming more and more difficult as time moves on. This says the U.S. doubled down on its housing problems during the pandemic. Even as constructions of single-family homes booms, a new report paints a troubling portrait of racial and generational gaps in home buying and a severe lack of housing where it is needed most. It says it might sound surprising with sky-high home prices, lumber shortages, and bidding battles in seemingly every corner of the country, but the U.S. has been on a bit of home building tear. Single-family homes started toppling the million mark last year, the first time that's happened since 2007. And apartment construction is approaching levels last seen in the 80s, says Christopher Bruin, director of the research for the National Multifamily Housing Council. Despite the pandemic, just over 389,000 apartment units began construction in 2020, one of the best years since 1990. And at current rates, builders will start 446,000 units before 2021 is over. So like we said, it is happening. They're building a lot, but can anybody afford it? No. No. We can't afford it. Let's look at this. And when people say, oh, you guys should just need to work hard, blah, 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 I want you guys to share with them this.
Time a millennial is trying to explain this to a boomer, they always use the same example. They go, well, my interest rates were 15%. You have 6.5%. You're so lucky. Well, let's look at it this way. If you bought a house for $80,000 back in the 80s, a 20% down payment would be 16 grand. And the average person was making around $30,000 back then. So your down payment was just half your yearly salary. And then the loan you would have on it would be about 60,000. So in order to pay off the 60,000, if you really wanted to, it's just 2 years of your salary and you could have your house paid off. Well, let's fast forward to 2023, and I live in Orlando, so I'll use this as an example. A $400,000 house with 20% down would cost $80,000 just as the down payment. The average person makes $50,000. So it's almost twice their yearly salary just for the down payment. Then they've got a $320,000 loan left that they have to look at. That's nearly 7 times their salary to pay off the loan, regardless. And then you go, well, 15%, we had a higher payment. All the people buying houses right now, I'm a real estate agent here, so I see this all the time. It is incredibly rare that people are putting 20% down. People are putting 3 to 5% down, which is, with a 6% interest rate, is still shooting the mortgage through the roof. People's payments on these homes are $3,300, $3,500 a month on an average simple 3-bed, 2-bath home. So that's the difference. Millennials are complaining and people can't get mortgages. I don't know the answer to it, but I'm in this stuff every single day. And most of our clients, I'm not kidding you, are in their 50s, 60s, and 70s. It is so rare for us to see a millennial or especially anyone younger, except a couple the other day. And the agent pulled me aside and said, hey, they got to send this video to their parents because they're the ones paying for it. Good for them. That's awesome. But that's the situation that millennials are in.
Like I said, millennials, we're approaching 40. I'll be 40 next year. I'll be 40 next year. Can we afford homes? No, we can't. Meanwhile, in places like China, they got an 85 to 90% home ownership rate in China. Here, we're lucky if we reach 65%. And that's mostly among Gen X and boomers. And the millennials that can get a home are getting a home because mommy and daddy's helping pay for it. Now, of course, this is a Black channel, a Black network. So let's take a look at this too. Let me see this down. Okay. Gosh, just takes so long to load. I should have preloaded this before I went live, but it's whatever. Please do not start playing before I get to this. Okay. Nope. Okay. Pause. Pause. Oh, dear God. Why aren't you? Oh, my God. Oh, gosh. I know, page unresponsive. Thank you so much. Sorry, guys. Everything's going a little on the slow side. Okay. Okay. All right. So let me share this really quick. I think this is oh, nope, that's not what I wanted. This one. Okay. So let's go.
So the National Association of Realtors just released some data from last year. Turns out about 88% of home buyers last year were they look like me. They were white. Do you care to guess how many melanated human beings in America? What percentage bought houses in 2022?
It was 3%. 3%. That's how many.
I don't have an easy, quick little quote that I could zing out there to solve the world's problems, but the disparity is stark, and you have to be blind not to see it. When we talk about the difference in wealth inequality in American households, even not just a black and white divide, but the disparity in homeowners and renters and household wealth. There's a lot to unpack about whether or not buying a house is a smart move for everybody, and I actually don't think it is. But I do not think you can argue that it has been a powerful tool to lift a certain segment of the population up financially, and to see the disparity in people who are able to grab that thing, to pull that lever, is pretty stark. Yeah.
So just to let you guys know, even the realtors are speaking out. The realtors are going, yeah, things are not good. 3% of home buyers last year were black. 3%. 3%. So not only are millennials not doing okay, black millennials are not doing okay. We're not okay, people. It's not good. And then some people will look at us and go, well, you guys just need to pull yourselves up by your bootstraps. And then I go, well, maybe, just maybe, if we actually just did, made housing a human right, then we wouldn't have to worry about this. But unfortunately, because it's not, then we have to worry about always being homeless or being this close to homeless. It's funny because we're 13% of the population, but we're 40% of the homeless population. Something tells me that maybe, just maybe, racism still exists. I also want to show this too.
Hey, brother Brad. I'm not picking on you. I thought it was a good comment. This type of comment came up a couple times. The video that I'm originally linked to here, if anybody's just finding this, that thing blew up. That's wowing out.
So this person comment said melanated people only make up 13% of the population. So, and let's hear his response.
Cannot, I'm sorry, respond to every individual person. I wish I could. I said what I said. Happy to talk to anybody, but I can't take on that. But I would like to address. When I clicked on your face, I see that you identify as a libertarian. So I would like to posit a question for you as a man that loves the free market. Here's all I'm trying to say here. I'm trying to stay in my lane, touching some hot issues. All I'm trying to say is, I asked the question rather, do you think that 3% would have been higher if Black Americans had been given the land that they were promised originally? That's a lot of compounding equity, at this point. And if not, do you think that 3% number in 2022 might have been higher if the Black Americans that were able to get a hold of land during their lifetime had not been run off by domestic terrorism in America during a great migration as they literally fled north, and that land was reabsorbed back into the white population and they were allowed to build equity off of it? Do you think that 3% number might be higher if, as someone that loves a free market, when they got to these, safety cities, that they had been allowed to purchase the homes that they wanted to buy and in neighborhoods that they wanted to live in and had not been relocated and steered into specific neighborhoods? Do you think that 3% number might be a little bit higher if their grandparents had not had their home systematically devalued through very legal means of valuation and market models? Do you think that 3% number might have been high? I could go on and on. All right. And as somebody that loves a free market, you should be equally upset and appalled by that. My only point here is somebody that sells real estate and works in this market is all I can do is speak truth to power. I, like everybody else here, am operating within a system that I did not design. I did not pick out. Every sane person understands that. So what are we to do? I've been performing a thought experiment for a very long time on what somebody could do to make a decent living or a living at all that doesn't exploit themselves, somebody else, or something else. It's a challenge. That's the system part. All I'm saying is it begs the question that do you think that number might have been higher if millennial home buyers that were Black were able to call on the resources that their parents were able to accumulate? And I think the answer is yes. I think that number would have been higher. That's what I think.
That was from a realtor. And so that's something that I think that a lot of us need to think about. It's not only just the disparity between our generations, but also the racial disparity as far as wealth. And this is something that also needs to be discussed as well. And this is why housing as a human right needs to happen. Now, let's continue, because some great stuff on TikTok. If you guys aren't on TikTok, y'all are missing out. I'm telling you. All right. So let's go here.
None of this makes sense.
Hello, my name is Matt, and I've been helping people make sense of the housing market since everything changed. See, as soon as I felt that shift in June of 22, I've been asking why. Why? Where are we going? What's happening? Who has the money? What's going on? Let's start at the end and work our way back. So institutions are supposed to own 40% of all single-family rental homes by 2030. Go ahead and look it up. That is just under 8 million homes. So the reason I asked those questions was because institutions were giving me 10 to 12 offers on every home over what anybody else would pay. And that's when rates were low. And of course, we all know home values went up, way up. So like he says in his video, it doesn't make sense to anyone because nobody on here feels like they can afford it. However, they can, and they were ready. We do more research and we find out that the big players like Elon Musk are building entire company towns. So the big players enter the chat, and they're building company towns for all their employees, not for them to own. They want to own it because they know supply is low. And if they can own these homes, they can profit. And of course, you can't do everything the same. So Bezos had to go ahead and say, I'm not going to do that for my employees. What I'm going to do is say, hey, give me $100, invest with me. I'll go out there and buy and build and fund entire new neighborhoods specifically for rent. Now, we all know that big money, institutions, investors that are trying to profit off houses is a bad thing. But how bad is it? If shareholder value is the major factor driving the housing market, there is no prospect for affordable housing, period. So let's go back to the conclusion, shall we? Institutions to own 40% of single-family rentals by 2030. Who do you think are buying all the houses right now? Who do you think can afford the payments that you can't afford? You know what that means? We're going to be in this environment until 2030 where it's just slightly out of reach for you to afford a home. And you're going to complain, and I get it. You have every right to. But this is what they're doing. The writing's on the wall. And they are doing it through you. Just like that Arrived Homes Jeffrey Bezos has. Give me $100. I'm going to go out there. You can invest. You be the smart one and invest in my company. I'll make it easy for you. Why would they make it easy for you guys? They're telling you it's too expensive to own a home. You should rent, yet you should help them build the rental homes that you're going to live in. Not own the one you're going to live in, own a piece of it. I'll add this to the playlist of housing issues so you can click down here and go see all the other videos I've did, but I've literally been talking about this since then, and I will continue to do so. Step one is understanding, and I hope this helped.
So ultimately, just like with the last segment, with this segment, the problem is corporations and the wealthy. That's the problem. So this is what's been going on. And I think this is deeply important so that we help people out with housing. And, you know, I think that it's important that we get ourselves to a point where we start to do mutual aid for, you know, our fellow citizens, for anybody who may be, you know, going without. You know, and so I think that's what's important. And if you know somebody that is going through housing issues, and if there's any way you can assist them, even if you don't have the money, right? If you can assist them with helping them out with housing, help. Mutual aid could be just helping them out with their application fees, right? Or it could be, are you just able-bodied and you can help them move? You know what I'm saying? There's so many different ways that we can help our neighbors when it comes to these things until we can actually change the system. And so, you know, when we talk about issues like this, it's really to bring this to your attention. And I would like to say that, you know, there's many different ways for mutual aid.